Release the Kraken!
Good moto morning, beautiful people. Welcome to Kraken's Garage. I'm your host, Eric, and on today's episode is part 2 of Release the Kraken, this time in Cairns, Australia. KazoMoto dropped us off at the airport in Sydney, and I'm walking through the airport and I come across this Kraken rum display. I thought it was rather appropriate for the transition onto our next stop. I hope you enjoy this journey I take you on today. I don't think Americans realize how enormous Australia is. Western Australia is one of the states, much like Virginia is a state of the United States. Is 5 times the size of Texas. So every time we hop a flight, it's a big deal. It's like flying across the US to go to another part of Australia. We got settled in at the Reef Casino and Hotel. Had a wonderful view. I'll share a few pictures off the balcony. It's a very strange room, though. It had sliding doors or shutters for the bathtub that overlooked the bed, so I thought that was kind of odd. So we're scrambling to get unpacked. I realized I had forgotten my swimming trunks, so I went down and asked the front desk if there was any place open. At this point, it was almost 9 o'clock at night after we had dinner and we were unpacking. We had to venture out, and as luck would have it, right next to the casino or hotel was a Quick Stop or 7-Eleven, and they had 3 men's suits, thus the infamous swimming trunk issue. I go into this 7-Eleven to purchase these trunks, and I said, hey, can I try them on? They only had 3 of them on the rack, small, medium, and large in different colors. That's it. So large was as good as it was going to get. No dressing room. And I'm like, do you have a restroom I can try them on? And he's like, nope, can't help you with that either. So I'm like, there it is, right there with my shorts on. I'm trying on swimming trunks inside like a Quick Mart. As it turns out, they were like a cheap hotel, no ballroom, but they got the job done. So we get up early the next morning, have a light breakfast, and we're off to go catch the charter for the Great Barrier Reef. I was kind of shocked to get on the ship out to the reef. It was a solid 2.5 hour boat trip to get there. The size of the group on this ship was rather large. There was about 150 people that were there to snorkel on the reef. So there's a lot of fin slapping upside your head while people were looking around at the Great Barrier Reef. In the background here, I'll share a few videos that I took of the underwater. The water was kind of churned up, so it wasn't crystal clear, but it was still good enough. I caught some amazing footage. I'm only going to share briefly some of it here, but at the end of this video, on the outro, I'll show the rest of my video. If anybody has any interest, you can catch it at the end. The Great Barrier Reef is one of the 7 wonders of the world. This is only 2 of the 7 wonders of the world that I have gotten to personally see, and one is the Grand Canyon, and now the Great Barrier Reef. So tick that box off on my bucket list. It was amazing. What's fascinating about the Great Barrier Reef is it's home to 8 wonderful sea creatures that you can pretty much only find in this area of the world. While we were snorkeling, the fish is a Maori or humphead wrasse. There's one that hangs out there at the reef, and the staff on the charter boat said be sure to probably bump into him down there. They've dubbed him Wally. And I personally didn't get to see him. Mrs. Kraken went on one more scuba dive than I did. I took a break because the current was kind of rough, and I was catching my breath for the next dive. And when she went on the next dive, she bumped into Wally, this beautiful fish, and also a sea turtle swam underneath her as well. So I'm kind of salty I didn't get to see those 2 critters on this run. The next fish you're likely to encounter is the Queensland grouper, then the Pacific manta ray, Tridacna gigas, the giant clam. And this clam was interesting. Mrs. Kraken got to see the giant clam as well. What's fascinating about this giant clam is the diver that was with her said, check this out, and I'm going to swim over top of him, and when my shadow casts on him, the clam will close up. And then as soon as my shadow is clear and the sunshine gets back on the clam, it'll open back up. And sure enough, it did. Nature is freaking amazing. And the next one is the 𝕒𝕗𝕝𝕜 fish, or clownfish, or what also is known by the Pixar movie Finding Nemo. And I did see those when I was snorkeling as well. The sharks you're likely to encounter on the Great Barrier Reef are the tiger and hammerhead sharks. No, I did not see any sharks, so that could be good or bad, I guess. Sea turtles, the Great Barrier Reef houses 6 of the 7 sea turtles that even exist on this planet, so that's incredible. And the last one you're likely to encounter out there is the whales. They have killer whales, short-finned pilot whales, sperm whales, and the humpback being the most common. All these pics are credited to sportdiver.com. I'll have a link down below since I personally didn't take these pictures if you would like to read up on all these wonderful critters on this planet. Before we finished up the cruise, Mrs. Kraken and I decided to take the helicopter tour of the Great Barrier Reef. It's not much, it's kind of self-explanatory here. Here's some quick footage I hope you enjoy. Kind of fast forwarded through it to see as much as you could in a short period of time. Just amazing to see the Great Barrier Reef from above. It's just an absolute wonderful view.
Next stop, going to meet Moz 42, Big Moz. Let's get cracking.
I reached out to Big Moz, who is a couple, 2-3 hours away from where we were at. He chose a place for us to meet for lunch called the Hemingway Brewery. And I tipped my lid to the Hemingway Brewery as a percentage of their profits go towards the preservation of the Great Barrier Reef. So kudos to them on that. We also had a mystery guest show up at lunch as well. That was unexpected. There's not much footage of Moz and I getting to chat, as I'm not a fan of sticking a camera in somebody's face when I just meet them. But I will say this, after I got to know the man more personally and broke bread with him, I wound up with another best friend. There's a reoccurring theme here on this entire journey. I'm walking away with lifelong friends on every single stop that we make. And thank you, Big Moz, for being a part of my life. And the mystery guest that popped in while he was working on his lunch break was aussiewantok. Nick stopped by. He did not have lunch with us, but he wanted to catch up. I appreciate this man taking the time out of his life to come by and meet and chat with me and Moz. He's a good friend of Moz's, I believe. I believe they occasionally get together for rides. So once again, here's some outro of Moz heading back home. He rode a whopping 2 to 3 hours each way to come see me, and I'm indebted to you. Thank you so much, Moz. That's certainly a beautiful bike.
Bye now. At the world. Pleasure being at the world to me, Moz. Thank you for taking the time out of your life.
Try to keep it under 200 kilometers.
Surprising, this thing will go over 100 kilometers an hour.
I believe it.
Takes a little while to get there.
At this point in our life, we're in no rush.
That's right. No hurry.
So what do you reckon? Let's get cracking.
Let's go.
Safe. That's it.
So we've had a very action-packed day today. Mrs. Kraken and I had a light supper that evening, had a nice supper in the hotel, and went down and did some light gambling. Of course, I won some decent money on one of the slots, only to turn right around and lose it again, and then checked out. That was enough for me. So that concludes our trip to Cairns. The next morning we were off to the airport. We fly back to Sydney. That's another 3-hour flight plus horsing around in the airports. Then wait for our next flight to Perth, to Western Australia. That's another 6 hours. We don't get in till almost 9 o'clock that evening, so an entire day spent in the airports. I want to personally thank Big Maz and aussiewantok for taking the time out of their lives to have lunch with me. Maz, it was an absolute honor and privilege to meet you. Thank you for so much for hanging out with Mrs. Kraken and I. Mentioned before, you might meet your new best friend in your travels. The moto community is stronger than ever from where I'm sitting. So thank you for being in my life again, Maz. I'll see you in the next one on part 3 in Perth. Let's get cracking.